Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled to have you with me today because, wow, we are diving deep into the events of Session 18 of this campaign. And let me tell you, it's an absolute masterclass in narrative tension. We're going to trace a timeline today that starts with this flawless, daylight tactical cooperation between our heroes, and then, well, it plummets straight into a massive, twisting midnight betrayal right inside the walls of Axholm. You're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. The orcs are camped just outside the walls of Axholm, but the greatest threat to the heroes might be sleeping in the room next door. Right from the jump, we're following this intense, ticking clock, rising action arc. Outside the fortress, you've got an entire orc horde setting up camp, literally preparing to slaughter the Phandalin refugees taking shelter inside. But inside the fortress, the bonds of trust holding our adventuring party together are about to violently snap. Section 1. Securing the Axholm defenses.
Okay, let's dive into this, because before everything falls apart, we actually see our heroes working together like a well-oiled machine. It's daylight, the threat of the horde is looming, and they urgently need to secure the perimeter. So Redder, Vitrovia, and Zerk are investigating the remaining rooms of Axholm, and they uncover the secret miner's tunnel leading outside. It's totally blocked by a massive boulder, so Vitrovia cleverly casts Reduce to shrink it down. They peek outside, spot 3 orc scouts, and Vitrovia instantly drops a moonbeam to silently dispatch them. Just like that, they pull the bodies inside, restore the boulder, and seal the tunnel back up. Flawless stealth. And you know, this teamwork is absolutely crucial, because it establishes this false baseline of cooperation. It makes us genuinely believe they've got each other's backs.
Section 2. Assembling the War Council. Now, what's really interesting about this is that while the perimeter is being secured, we shift indoors to the war room. Here, Tibor Wester is desperately trying to organize a defense strategy with the newly arrived refugees. And those pirate allies from earlier in the campaign, they are being perfectly utilized for the upcoming siege. They've taken refuge in Area A9, and Tibor has assigned them specific roles that perfectly match their nautical backgrounds. Stade, the gentleman pirate, is commanding the heavy ballistas. Calico Zack is using his swashbuckling agility to defend the choke point at the front gate. Mildred is stepping up as a heavy-handed morale enforcer to stop any refugee riots, while Barnacle Bill is your frontline shock trooper. Oh, and Finnick the Crow is using his unmatched eyesight to man the auto-crossbow platform. It's honestly a brilliant tactical integration of NPCs into a defensive line.
And right alongside this intense tactical planning, we have some incredible dramatic irony playing out over in the triage center. Boris and Adabergwin are frantically setting up a field hospital, and the young, kind of incompetent healer, Edward Teach, suddenly discovers that the Telos following pirate Captain Lorca O'Shea is actually his father. I mean, what are the odds? It's a massive personal revelation dropping right smack in the middle of a war prep zone.
Section 3. Zerk's Night Scouting Mission.
Of course, the daylight preparations can only last so long. As night begins to fall, the pacing really shifts. The party desperately needs intel, so they literally lower the 3-foot-tall rock gnome rogue, Zerk, down the fortress wall by a rope to scout the enemy lines. He's got specific objectives out here. Step 1. Identify the heavy artillery. He rolls really well on stealth and successfully spots catapults and battering rams. That's great intel. Step 2. Assess unique enemy units. Well, unfortunately, his perception check fails here, so he totally misses the finer details of the horde's composition. And then comes step 3, something he absolutely did not plan for. On his way back to the fortress, he is intercepted.
And this brilliantly illustrates the danger of rogue subplots, doesn't it? Zerk, who we know is a scion of Merkel, runs into Marana. She's an agent of the cult of Merkel, presenting as a highly unassuming assassin with, of all things, a thick Minnesota accent. She praises him for returning the undead of Axholm to the Lord of Bones, and then she hands him a conditional contract, and he just accepts it without even reading it. He basically pockets a ticking time bomb right in the middle of a siege.
Section 4. Dinner, Deceptions, and Dance.
So after Zerk is hoisted back up, the timeline enters this deceptive calm of the evening. The Nomengard chefs have prepared a big dinner in the Grand Hall for the refugees, and the heroes are trying to lift everyone's spirits. I absolutely love the contrast here. Whiffer steps up and delivers this grand, truly inspirational speech, promising safety and encouraging these traumatized refugees to dance and find a little joy. He sets the expectations sky high. Then Boris steps up to ring the famous Nomengard dance bell to start the music. He rings it, and it sounds like total garbage. I mean, absolute silence from the crowd.
Why? Because Zerk secretly used sleight of hand to swap the real magical bell for a dud while Boris wasn't looking. It is a hilarious, catastrophic failure.
And the attempts to save the morale just keep backfiring, which honestly injects so much heart and humor into this explainer. Petrovia tries to fix the awkward silence by casting thaumaturgy to physically shake the ground, but doing this accidentally makes Boris realize that all those times he thought his Timora prayers were shaking the earth, yeah, it was just Petrovia pranking him the whole time. Then Redder tries to shoot eldritch blasts into the air like fireworks. But guys, these refugees literally just survived a dragon attack yesterday, so the fiery explosions just give them total PTSD. Yet, despite all this absolute chaos, Redger smoothly manages to dance in complete silence with a woman named Lyra. The character dynamics playing out here are just phenomenal.
Section 5, Infernal Deals and Assassinations.
But eventually, the dancing ends. The refugees go to sleep. And as the clock strikes midnight, the tone of our timeline shifts from lighthearted to incredibly ominous. Track these moving pieces with me for a second, because the tension is escalating rapidly behind closed doors. Late in the evening, the ancient elf druid Valdara tells Vitrovia they need a secret meeting on the roof in the morning. Then, right at midnight, Ganthor, the devil patron, appears in Ritter's room to collect on an infernal debt. And simultaneously, in another room entirely, the unseen condition on Zerk's Merkle contract is finally met, signaling him to actually read the thing.
So, here is the crucial point. Ganthar tells Redar that he owes someone a favor, and to pay that debt, Redar must open the gates of the fortress and let the orc horde inside. Ganthar is literally demanding that Redar sacrifice hundreds of innocents. It is the ultimate betrayal of the party's entire mission. Obviously, Rudder refuses. Ganthor immediately moves to enact the disobedience clause of the Ghostwriter contract to force his hand. But Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance sharing Rudder's body, advises this incredibly clever internal parlay. He tells Rudder to give control to the innocent Toga's personality. Why? Because the infernal contract specifically names Rudder Tog. By switching the dominant personality to just Tog, they exploit a massive legal loophole that completely blocks Ganthor from enforcing the disobedience clause. Tog actually successfully defies a devil. But, as we know, devils always have a plan B. Frustrated, Ganthor triggers his backup plan, which happens to be a contract he brokered with the cult of Merkle. Over in Zerk's room, the gnome finally reads his contract. It reads, Order of Divine Decree. Execute the final rites upon the person of Reader Tsog. The Scion is mandated to use all necessary stealth to permanently silence the target. The dramatic irony here is just suffocating. We, the audience, know Reader is marked for death by his own party member. Zerk knows it, but Reader has absolutely no idea.
Section 6, The Portcullis Cliffhanger.
Let's move ahead and see how this builds, because morning arrives, and the powder keg is officially lit. Tsog goes straight to Boris's room to warn him that Ganthor is actively trying to open the gates. Zerk walks in, casually mentioning his contract, but outright refuses to show it to anyone, even when Tsog demands to see it because he can sense it involves him. The trust in the room just completely evaporates, and the overwhelming stress of being kept in the dark pushes the fragmented personalities inside Redder's mind, Redder, Tsog, and Zarathos, to suddenly fuse together in this unprecedented, unified anger. Completely frustrated and feeling deeply betrayed by friends who are hiding secrets while he is literally fighting off a devil, this newly fused Ryoger transforms in a sheer, unified rage. He completely bypasses the argument, Misty steps right out of the room, and teleports directly to the Axholm Gate winch. He goes completely rogue. And that is exactly where Session 18 ends, with Reader's hand on the winch, standing right between the safety of his friends and the absolute slaughter of an entire town. Will he actually fulfill his patron's twisted request out of pure spite? Or will Zerk enact the assassination contract to stop him? The tactical unity we saw at the very start of this timeline is just completely gone. Man, what an explainer this has been. Thank you so much for joining me to break all this down, and I will definitely see you next time to find out what happens when that winch turns.